Welcome. This is the Domain Name Law Show. We're here every Tuesday, noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. This is the place where we talk about domain disputes. But I have some great ideas today how to resolve domain disputes, like Judge Judy, and I'm going to talk about it. There's three hosts of this show, Jeff Newman, David Michaels, and myself. I'm Todd Ryan. Like I said, we talk about domain name legal issues every Tuesday. I've been doing this for over 5 years. Right now, Jeff's in Japan, so he can't join us. I'll tell you about his family trip. He's enjoying life. So me and David are here. We're going to take care um, of what we need to take care of today. I think people think they've heard it all, but they haven't. Well, David, how's everything going over there where you're at? Is there still choppy weather? What's going on in Toronto area?
It's sunny, comfortable, beautiful weather.
Nice. Do you watch much of the World Cup?
I will be watching a game tonight, that's for sure.
What's
I
that?
watched
T-
last week England versus Croatia game.
yeah.
So, yeah, occasionally I'm watching a game.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I know England's playing today pretty good. When's Canada? Do they play today?
I don't know.
I was going to say, I thought you might be watching that. Well, anyway, we have some interesting cases today. You guys want to follow along, you certainly can. DNLshow.com/outline. I think people think that they've heard of pretty much every situation in domain disputes, but there's always some new ones. But I wanted to mention, there was something I wanted to mention. Well, let's look here at the outline. Um, Once again, that outline is dnlshow.com/outline. If you want to take a look at it, what we're going to cover today with links. Matter of fact, yeah, I'll jump right into this domain legal news story. So, for those of you who aren't familiar with a URS, that's what's it stand for? Uniform Rapid Suspension, I believe. But anyway, a URS is just a fast way. Say, like you file one with, you're a trademark owner, you can file one with the forum, and it's like $400. But basically, what it is just you're the trademark owner saying, hey, they're infringing on our mark, or they're basically doing something wrong, and we just want you to suspend this registration for the life of the registration. So they're not asking for the domain name like in the UDRP, and it's really a complaint that's supposed to be like 500 words or less. So you just need to be real specific. You file this URS, it's less than a UDRP. You're looking just to have the domain suspended. So in a case that I read on Domain Gang, it was a case, well, it was about the domain Bublé.shop, and the person that filed this URS complaint was Michael Bublé, the singer. Apparently, Warner Brothers filed it on his behalf, I think. But David, tell us what happened in this case. The domain Bublé.shop, it was registered by a person named Chaka Khan, which is obviously probably made up out of Nigeria. But tell us, you know, what happened in this case where this record company and this artist filed this URS against this domain name. Lay it out for us, please.
Sure. So, Michael Bublé's represented by Sophia Nadgorny. She works in New York at Warner Music Group, and she submitted specimen screenshots of the offending website. It's a new GTLD because it's a .shop. You can't use the URS in any type of .com, so it's reserved for the new GTLD domain names. And I don't know what it is with her browser, but she did not include the URL in the screenshot. So why don't some attorneys do that? That is a common problem I've noticed over the years. Some people say, well, my software prints on the specimen what the URL is. I don't think that's good enough. I want to see the whole URL. Even like the NHL team, when they filed that World Cup of Hockey specimen, trademark specimen that I was looking at, they filed it in February 2024. And they said, oh, our URL is nhl.com, but the specimen also didn't have the URL showing. So I don't know what it is with some trademark attorneys, maybe it's a browser setting or whatever, but you can show your entire URL in the browser if you're using a normal Chrome or I think any browser. You just have to change the settings so it actually works properly. Why would you go to a website without seeing what the URL is? Can you imagine going to some fake bank website and entering your login? That would be crazy. So anyway, Michael Bublé had this lawyer file this complaint. It proved the case. Like, oh, this guy's impersonating me. He's booking events and private meetings and all that, and selling merch. But guess what? The, the URL was missing on the specimens. So case dismissed. So I guess he can refile now as a UDRP. What do you think? Is he precluded from that?
No, but so, and you're right, David. Many times, basically, when you're submitting evidence or exhibits, there's usually easy ways. You might have a problem with Chrome, maybe Safari. You try to find a browser that you don't have your problems with, but basically, you can save the document, try to save that screen as a PDF. There's different ways to do it, and then it should list, down at the bottom, here's the date this uh, image was taken, this PDF was created, what the full URL is, and the date. Those are the most important things. So because when people say, hey, I went and visited this website and here's what it looked like. All right, well, it's not that somebody couldn't take a PDF and then change the URL and the date. Somebody could certainly, do the old Photoshop thing and make changes. But bottom line is, those are the two important things when you're taking a screenshot of a website. On what date was it taken, and what was the full URL in the browser? So in this case, they file this URS to get a real fast decision. Uniform rapid suspension. So they filed this through the forum. I think they filed it through the forum, but anyway, I know over there it's $400 as opposed to $1,300 for a UDRP. Anyway, it was flat out this Nigerian registrant said, "Hey, you want to join the fan club?" That's one thing, but he really turned it into a commercial thing. He tried to put some of that verbiage on the website where you can get away with it and say, "Hey, we're a fan club." But are you really a fan club, or are you trying to sell merchandise? And David's right; they were selling merchandise. This one should have been an easy one. They just didn't submit the right evidence, and this panelist didn't go to the website to see. Okay, it is in fact, you know, trying to impersonate, and apparently they had a link to an Instagram site that was impersonating Warner Brothers. I don't know, but it's frustrating for these lawyers to think, anyway, they think they have an easy case. There was a case that I was discussing with some panelists last week that was a law firm had filed a UDRP, and the panelist denied the complaint, and it was an obvious cyber squatting because it was like the law firm's initials with law hyphen LLC. It was like basically somebody overseas but the panelist was upset that the complainant just didn't submit some evidence, was making claims and didn't submit some evidence to back it up. But the claims seemed to be obvious that it's some panelists now, they're trying to teach lessons to the law firms. You need to file these things appropriately, even if it's an obvious case of cyber squatting. So in the case that we were discussing, I can't recall the domain name, but the point was, even panelists, sometimes it's like the spirit of the whole thing of the UDRP is to stop cyber squatting. So you're going to have complainants and respondents who make mistakes in their filings and sometimes don't include an exhibit or evidence, and you don't make a decision that's obviously incorrect just to teach one of the parties a lesson. So it's important to really, these panelists, they're the ones that get a look at the whole complaint, the whole response, But anyway, we saw this article in Domain Gang that was about this, like I said, Bublé. What was the name of it? Bublé Club.shop. Well, when you got those extensions like club and shop in there, you can't remember. Is it Bublé Shop.club? That's not a bad one either. But I didn't realize that it was worthwhile to even do these kind of things. Let me tell you, Bruce Springsteen, he sells about, it's hard as an artist to sell T-shirts on your website. People are going to buy them at fucking Kohl's, okay, or at Hot Topic if that's still in business. They don't go to websites and buy concert shirts, and they're just historically, sell 5 a year. Anyway, so I didn't realize, Bublé so popular, and then BubléClub.shop. There's probably something more to that story, why the guy was doing it. But all right, so the next article, and I don't know, I remember hearing about this, and now this was an article on DNW. I'm going through it right now because I'm not prepared. Team Internet pursues antitrust claim, domain business sale on track. Okay, David, do you know about this? Team Internet was really suing. They didn't name the major technology company, but they assume it's Google. What would they be suing Google for, or any other major technology company? What's the deal? What was anti-competitive behavior that they are
Well, I
accusing them
opened up
of?
the decision. It's 363 pages. Just in the table of contents, you can see that Google has been channeling Google Ads demand preferentially through AdX. What's AdX? I don't know. So there's Google Ads, DV360 has been favoring AdX by engaging in buy-side conduct. So I guess they're doing some price fixing and doing second price auctions to hinder others from getting good deals on PPC ads. That's what it looks like without reading the full decision. It's not really a domain name case, it's an advertising antitrust case in the European Union. So it's sell-side conduct by Google. They have a dominant position in the market, and they're leveraging the dominance into the European Economic Area-wide market for SSPs. What does SSP stand for? I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what that's about. It's nothing to do with domain names.
Yeah, it really just has to do, this says in here, the group is pursuing a substantial damages claim against a major technology company arising from anti-competitive conduct established by a final regulatory decision by which the group was disadvantaged over an extended period. Okay, so they're mad about how Google, I don't know, Google rankings, it sounds like to me, but basically they're saying our sites couldn't be found or something. I don't know. I'm going to look, it's interesting that it's a big lawsuit, but, Team Internet going after Google. Google, I'm sure, has a defense to this. Follow up. Okay. Hootie ho ho. Pretty exciting, huh?
Who is Team Internet anyway? I've never heard of them.
They were another company, and then they changed their name to Team Internet. It's somebody that we know. Let me, Team Internet history. They were a company that everybody that was originally founded as CentralNick in London in 1996. The company built so it's CentralNick, and I say that like I know him. CentralNick. He's crazy. The guy, he can dance. I'm telling you, he drinks a lot, but the guy can do the merengue. I don't know. CentralNick.
Okay, so CentralNick was a registrar for a while, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, and weren't they the ones in charge of something over there in England with regards to?
Yeah, in the UK, yes. Yeah.
I don't know.
That's it. Okay.
CentralNick,
So
founded
that's the
in London.
connection.
Let's have a history. Initially developing proprietary software for distributing domains, if that we understand. 2013, the company floated on the London Stock Exchange AIM market, kicking off an aggressive period of corporate growth. Expanded in 2014 to 18, expanded its domain registrar and hosting portfolios by acquiring InternetBS.BS. That sounds like BS. Internet.BS, InstraCorp, and Key Drive Group. All these companies, and they expect us to know about them. Jeff knows about them. Jeff's like, yeah, I know the guy there. I work there. Jeff's in Japan right now, enjoying life. He's having some wonderful food. he's still having to check emails and stuff, which I know that's bothering him because I bother him there. But anyway, hope he's having a good time. He'll be back, not next week, but the following week. He's like, oh, I'm going to be back. Tell everybody I want to be back. I said, yeah, they're waiting. Acquired Adrenal Labs in 2023. Okay, it doesn't matter. It says Central Nick officially rebranded to Team Internet Group, trading under the ticker TIG. Okay, okay, so they're going to sue Google. Sounds like they're really in for a fight. The last thing on our domain industry legal news and other topics, so that's B on our outline. I still have this link, URLs.com has a lost domain contest. So if you go to urls.com/lost-domain-contest, if you're not on our outline, you could just click the link, but it's urls.com/lost-domain-contest. They're having a lost domain contest, giving away a bunch of prizes, cash. All they want to know is, tell us your story about how you lost a domain name. You could have let it expire accidentally. You could have been using the restroom when the auction was ending and you couldn't take care of yourself in time. I have no idea, but everybody has these lost domain stories. You know, especially you tell a friend and he registered it. But a lot of prizes. It's cool stuff. You can check it right out there. They're having first place, second place, but credits at Dynadot, credits at, looks like there's credits at Spaceship, $500 credits at Spaceship, $500 cash. But it's a friend of the show. Jeff Garbett operates urls.com. Owner, operator, broker. He buys and sells domains. But yeah, a lot of great prizes there. So I suggest do that, and then we'll talk more about it. Before we get into our cases, okay, we got 3 cases today, 2 of them from last week. I had to refamiliarize ourselves. Last week we talked about World Cup of Hockey the entire time, because that was the case that NHL filed against Arif, and unfortunately for Arif, there was a ruling of a transfer. But it was a tough case, even though Arif wasn't trying to cyber squat, trying to cause the NHL problems. But the panelists saw that, hey, there really wasn't much you could do with that website. It's identical to their mark. But I wanted to say, yeah, David, I was thinking as I was going through the cases today, I think I am going to do like a Judge Judy, and that is, I'm going to have, I don't know how I'm going to get the business because I don't have a production team like Judge Judy did. Do it anyway, to say, hey, if you have a domain dispute and you're willing to let it be decided in this forum, and I'll use it like domain name law, the special version of it, but where I can, and maybe, we'll maybe a 3-member panel, me, you, and Jeff. But basically, we're like, listen, we get you authorized that you're willing to forego a UDRP and you're willing to let your dispute be decided here in our forum. And then we have both parties, and we tell them, how are we going to do this? Well, we're going to save you some money. Maybe it's going to be nothing. We can't do it like Judge Judy. She had all sorts of sponsors. But anyway, I like the idea of just saying, heck with these panelists. Just bring your dispute here. I'm going to be fair. If you're a domain owner and you've infringed or you're cyber squatting, yeah, you're getting it, you're going to get it transferred away from you. If you're just, anyway, a complainant trying to get a domain name because you want the .com, yeah, you better provide all sorts of evidence. But I like the idea of, Judge Judy wasn't a real court, but she decided a lot of decisions. What do you think, David? What do you think about that idea?
That'd be cool, but we'd have to have some rules because I don't want to get inundated with a 5,000-page complaint. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well,
So
what I'd have them do is sign legal agreements, production agreements, just like Judge Judy, they do. Okay, so you're not going to be able to go after this name in another capacity. If you do, this other party's going to be able to get you. You're deciding to leave your rights here. You're letting us decide. So it's not going to be easy. But the attractive part, why would people do it, would be, all right, well, say you're somebody who really feels like you have a dispute, you're on the complaint side, but you don't have the money, or um, your respondent would certainly like it, because a respondent would think, yeah, I'd like to save the money and get a 3-member panel for free. I don't know. You'd really just have to you'd have to just do some internet marketing and find people that, before you file a dispute, handle it in this form. Okay, it'd be hard to probably find the cases. There's plenty out there, but anyway, I like the idea that yeah, so we're having a real dispute here, and we're going to decide it. You know, two parties agree. It certainly could do that. I'll think about how to do this thing. Yeah, it makes sense really to have 3 panelists too, except David. Boy, when they get a load of you, they're going to think, I don't want him. I didn't select him. He's mean to the lawyers. And then I'm right in your same boat where, I have this, compassion for these domain investors, even though a lot of them I barely like. And then Jeff, he's even, he's more down the middle, obviously, but I mean, in my opinion, because he's an attorney and tries to be impartial, but it'd be best to have, one that's like really understands the brand side more. I understand it, just don't think that, brands have any much of a right. They have their trademark, and if somebody's infringing on their mark, they have court to handle that. But they believe, and we're going to get into our cases today, that they believe they have rights to domain names, whether it's before or after their mark becomes registered, definitely before it becomes popular in many cases. All right, we're going to start reviewing our domain disputes, our UDRP cases today. The very first one, mediceuticals.com. That's metaceuticals.com. And if you're a domain investor, you're like, all right, I get it. It's like 2 words combined, medicine and pharmaceuticals, right? So we all know that's a portmanteau. And so you're combining a couple words. It seems sort of cool. The complainant in this case they're out of New Jersey, but the company is Netherlands, the complainant, meaning the trademark owner is out of New Jersey, but apparently this is a partner or a part owner in the company that's out of Netherlands. So they filed the complaint against Domain Market, our friend Mike Mann. So, Mike Mann, good news is has a lot of experience with domain names, and he uses his experience in his defense, talking about similar names he's registered and so on. But so metaceuticals.com is the domain name. This complainant comes in and says, we've been metaceuticals since the 70s. This fucking complainant saying all sorts of bullshit, in my opinion. It's been this product, even though we didn't get involved with this product and acquire the trademark rights and all this till later on, and it really wasn't a registered mark until later on, which was like 2000, I believe. Was it? I have it down somewhere. Maybe it was like 2018. Who knows when the actual mark was registered? But they said they've been using it since the 70s. It's like a hair product, hair restoration, maybe. I don't know. I probably used it in my 20s about 30 years ago. Rogaine. Oh, that worked. That did a number. Okay, so they said we have rights to this, and the reason is we've been around forever. This guy registered the name. Really, it was registered in 99, but Mike didn't acquire it until 2011, which I think is awesome for domainers. A lot of names we have. I have some that were registered in 96, 1997. And yeah, I might not have acquired it until 2005. And people act like, yeah, you've got it later, 2010. Still so long ago now. Time goes by fast, right? So it's still 15 years ago. Mike owns that name for 15 years. He says, I bought this name because it's 2 words combined. I bought it back then because it's 2 words combined. I had all sorts of other names that were similar to this, and I'll get to those in a second. But he had a pretty good defense. His lawyer I was looking the guy up, Brian Leventhal. He's probably known by other lawyers. I didn't know the guy. Looks like he's out of D.C. or Delaware. I can't remember now. But I think he did a nice job. He's not known as a domain lawyer specifically, but Mike must have known that Brian knows his stuff. Put together a nice answer. But anyway, what facts from this case would you like to share? And go ahead and share the decision, David.
Sure. So in 2020, before I think, yeah, 2024, before they got their trademark, or after they got their trademark, they approached the domain market and asked for a quote on this domain name, and they were quoted through a broker the number $594,888. And they said, well, why should we pay for it when we own the name, the brand, it's our brand. Why should we pay anything? And the broker responded, well, make an offer. So the offer was $5,000. And the broker responded, six figures, please. So that's final. Um, that's how it starts off. And now, after all these years, they try to make buy in 2024. Now it's 2026. They filed this UDRP complaint saying, hey, we've been using this trademark since 1964, actually, but maybe we've had it since 1970. Well, Mike's in the United States. How is Mike supposed to have known about that company when they didn't even have a trademark? In fact, Alcon had a trademark for metaceuticals, actually also for hair shampoo products like that since 1973, but they abandoned their trademark. So there is they abandoned it in 1999. So there's no registration. There are other registrants with the same brand for foot care products in the United States, multiple trademark owners. So it's also category defining product category. So like on Alibaba and other websites, you can find metaceutical products, not just from this company in the Netherlands. So company in the Netherlands has a .eu and a .uk, and they have these bottles that are distinctive, kind of like fly blue with vertical spelling of metaceuticals, but they don't actually use it as a brand. They have other terms that they use as a brand. So it's not really a brand to people. Maybe it's a secondary brand. Who knows? Anyways, so the decision was denied. Mike asked for a reverse domain name hijacking finding, but the panel said no. While the case was weak, it wasn't frivolous. So what do you think? Did I miss anything important?
Well, okay, so the name we're talking about is metaceuticals.com that Mike Mann over at Domain Market owned. And the complainant used the domain metaceuticals.eu. They were on metaceuticalsusa.com. So over in Europe, they used metaceuticals.eu. Here in the US, and we know what happened. I mean, as business people and domain investors, yeah, they wanted the .com. Um, Back in 2015, Mike had it for sale for $20,000, and then you're right, they inquired, I guess, in 2024, and then the broker over at Domain Market is probably Mike himself, said, hey, he's got people that work for him, but somebody said it's six figures, and like David said, they didn't like that, and then they came back and said we'll offer 5,000, and that didn't go over very well, and then now recently, like David said, the lander says 594,888. You like how Mike leaves the 888 in there? He didn't just put 595,000. So yeah, they were just upset that this is unbelievable. That this is one of our brands, and they didn't do a good job of one showing that if it'd been around that long, I would have just why would that's when you load up and you submit that stuff. Not that it would have changed in this case, because in Europe, is Mike still supposed to be aware of it, even if it was a product in the 70s or 80s or 90s or whatever? But they just make claims about that. We've been around for 40 years. Well, give us a lot of specifics. Send us the Sears catalog with you in there or something. I don't know. But so metaceuticals.com is the domain name. It was complaint denied. Mike gets to keep the name. He did have in here, I was looking at it, that he mentioned that he's owned many other names, some that he's sold or he continues to own over these past 20 years. pharmaceuticalmed.com, nutraceutico.com, nutraceuticalsolutions.com, med therapeutic. Basically, when you're somebody that has a couple 100,000 names, he's owned millions over the years. He has, all sorts of examples to use. And it's one of the things that you do. You don't try to load up these UDRPs with stuff that doesn't make sense, but he, his attorney that was repping him did exactly what was needed here. And, I don't know, they put in the complaint and facts established it after deciding for 15 years not to challenge the respondent's legitimate ownership. They decided, in having decided the purchase price was unacceptable, the complaint seeks the abuse, and really probably should have gotten it. Should have got a RD&H ruling, but they didn't. So anyway, was that Matthew Kennedy? Let me make sure. Yeah, Matthew Kennedy, solo panelist, complaint denied. One for the good guys, if you want to call Mike a good guy. I look forward to seeing him at NamesCon. This is going to be a good NamesCon. Are you kidding me? Rick Schwartz is beside himself because of the big Bentley giveaway, and he's gonna, this is gonna be at the finale of the event. And if I can give away some things, for one, you need to register for NamesCon before, I think, this Friday. You get a big break. And I thought I had a 20% off code for everybody too, but I know Domain Gang has one. I believe it's DG some. Anyway, go to Domain Gang and you'll find it, or look for his post. I'll try to find and post it. I'll try to do that today so you can get before, still the early bit pricing, less 20%. But it looks like the finale is going to be, them deciding, and I say them, Rick has come up with 5 judges to rule who's going to be the most promising website that is built in the Beanstalk Challenge. And listen, I can't help but look at the competition because I'm in the contest, and I know I have a good shot at the Bentley. And my dog Bobby can't wait to get inside that baby. Sort of the interior looks sort of like his color a little bit, but he's a real show off. We call him Bobby Abu Dhabi sometimes because he's a big. Okay, so but anyway, Mike Mann's going to be there. Everybody, all these South Florida domainers are going to be there, and doing things a little different this year than last year. So even if you were at NamesCon last year, sounds to me, I know I'm going to be at this one, and doing a few things. One, roasting people. They haven't put together the exact agenda, but I'm assuming at the end of day one, I'm going to be able to recap day one, roast people. Just, it's fun. These companies in this business, and there's some crooks in the business too. I'll get down to them. And then of course, no holds barred. Even the nice guys. Ron Jackson, he's in my sights, but I like Ron. And hopefully I'm doing a little bit of something on that last day with Rick, and then, sharing a lot about the builders and the Beanstalk Challenge. And then we're going to hand it over to Ron, and then Ron will, get this contest rolling of, the judges deciding who's going to win this Bentley. And then Rick's going to, do the grand finale and give away the keys to the Bentley. And then I'm going to burn it off and drive out of there. Okay. So, anyway, that's NamesCon, November 11th and 12th in Miami. Go to namescon.com, sign up for this thing. I'll see you there. And if you see me, before you come up to me, look my way. If I give you eye contact and wave you over, come on over. Otherwise, don't come near me. I'm just kidding. Everybody, I enjoy seeing everybody there. It's fun. Hey, okay, so this next case, greenconnection.com. This was the case, from last week, so was the next one we didn't get to. But Green Connection, okay, what a great domain name. And I'll just flat out say the guy bought it from a NameJet auction. David, did you see the price he bought it for? I want you to guess if you didn't. He bought it in 2014, NameJet auction. What do you think he bought it for?
I didn't see the price, but $2,500. What do you think?
$761. What a great deal. I mean, anyway, Green Connection, because what's good about that is now you can be in any one of those businesses, right? The guy that owns it, I believe he said that he also owns Green Pets and Green Jeans. No, he owns Green Pets and let me see what else he owns. But Green Connection is the best one because that can seem to be like any industry, seems like to me. Um, see what he said here. But anyway, this was some Alaska complainant, Alaskan. They do landscaping, Green Connection. They're on the .net, of course. It's always suspect, you know. If I was like, you know, the Judge Judy, say we're on a panel, and I love it because we want to see people do this thing live. That would be the big difference is bring your complaint, and then, you know, like Judge Judy, I can tell them, shut up. You know, this would be just like Judge Judy. You thought she was rough. Okay. So it would be like, all right, bring your complaint. Oh, so you're on the .net, huh? So you want the .com, huh? There's not that's your main thing. You were just on the .net over the years. How many times have customers told you that they've sent an email to the .com or they went to the wrong website or you didn't get emails and you found out later that was the reason? Dozens of times. But anyway,
That's a
so
serious problem, especially if you're on the .org.
yeah. Oh, and I was say .net is nice, but I only had a few of them that because I had the .com and I fooled myself into believing it was defensive to own the .net. It's like stupid, stupid. Okay, so Green Bus. He owned Green Bus and Green Pets, but anyway, Green Connection probably his best one. He was out of Korea, but you know, so the point was the panelists said, okay, well, why is this person supposed to know um, you? He's in Korea, you're in um, Alaska. I was gonna say Canada because we could trade. I wouldn't mind trading Alaska for Canada, but I guess Alaska is a pretty cool spot too. Probably need it for its geo. Okay, so they had their registration, their trademark registration in 2018 for Green Connection in the planning business, in indoor and outdoor landscaping, I guess. But anyway, this domain guy, we said he just bought it, named at auction 2014. So these complainants, you just want to say to them, how do you expect, and boy, you love to speak to people, not just let them do it in writing through their lawyer. How do you expect this person to know who you were when you didn't even get your trademark registered till 2018? They bought it at an auction in 2014. Why are you wasting our time here with this effing complaint is what we want to know. So this one certainly I think should be a reverse domain name hijacking. Now let me go down here. Respondent did not. It was a complaint denied. John Swinson did deny the complaint. Did that end up being an RDNH, David?
I think so.
I don't know why I'm looking at this. I
The
don't.
last one is definitely RDNH.
Well,
But this one, no
they
RDNH.
didn't
No, they
ask
didn't
for it, and
find
they
that.
didn't even address it. I
Yeah,
mean, I
they didn't
didn't see
address
the
it.
complaint or the panelist even address it. And everyone, this person had some PPC links. He still does. Why in the world would anyone have these links anymore? Does anybody make any money? It only causes you problems. You don't make any money. It only causes you issues. Sometimes not even UDRP. But I just can't fathom it. That was another idea that I'm having too about telling people if you want a lander that goes to a law firm and then also to escrow. So using JJN, and this is just an idea. I haven't run it by Jeff yet. He's going to tell me not to talk about it until I do. But I think if someone had, you know, if you're a domain investor, you have it going to a law firm, your lander that mentions, you know, here's who's representing my domain investment portfolio. And then if you have interest in this name, you can contact us through this law firm. And then also, if we come to an agreement we already have an escrow service that we can provide this, legal escrow, basically safe, secure, and so on. But anyway, anybody that just has, you know, I don't know, I always had success with some legal type landers years ago when I would do that to my another attorney that I had. I'd have it go to a page that he set up, and I actually set up for him to say, if you have to inquire about this, you can reach out to this form. But and one, I think sometimes buyers, I'll tell you who really appreciates it, buyer brokers, they love to know, all right, so it's going to be official and I found at least a contact. Okay, anyway, I like that idea. Just PPC links are I'm just surprised that domain investors are convinced to use them. I'd like to bring in Nathan again from above and just ask him, what's going on with, the clients there using PPC links. What percentage of names? Is it 1% that it's worth getting, are you making $10 a month, $20 a month off of PPC links? What names are still, garnering some, not only traffic, but some coin, thinking financial, and I don't know. But any comments on PPC links, David? Are they, still good for some niche of names that I'm not thinking of right now?
I never made any money from parking at Sato ever. They said I earned $30, but then their advertiser failed to pay them, and so I never got paid out. So I never got paid. $30 out of like 1,000 domain names. That's crazy. Um, as far as I can tell, nobody's saying that they make a lot of money except for like maybe occasional domain names, like 1 out of 1,000 or 1 out of 6,000, like Rick had. But I asked above last week because they had a seminar on their new product. They have this dashboard. If they have UDRP insurance, I said, oh, you don't need that. You shouldn't get a UDRP because we can control what topics you can and won't advertise. Like, for example, we can block malware software because, you get those pop-ups to say, your computer has been infected. It's just an ad. It's not real. It's just, FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. They're trying to sell you something. But that has been used against domain owners time and time again. I've seen in the last 5 years between you and me discussing these cases, at least a dozen domain names that have been lost because they were parked at above. So I don't use them. They don't have insurance to cover me to even defend the case, much less the value of the loss of the domain name. So it's not worth it. I'd rather just build a site out and make something that's real and generate $5,000 a month from a real domain name website.
I've seen cases, David, where you don't have to have PPC links. Say you got a website that's a complainant or some other party trademark owner says we sell computers, and then you have links selling computers on your name that we believe is cyber squatting on us. It basically includes part of our mark. Well, even if you have links, PPC links that aren't selling related products, then they have the excuse and they filed complaints to say you're preventing us from being able to use it to sell our products, and you're still commercially making money even though it's in a different area. You're not putting this to a legitimate use. Bottom line is PPC links, when they are not sending to a competitor or to a related type product, then they come up with other excuses of that you're commercializing it and then you're preventing us from using it. I mean, bottom line is it never is like a benefit to you. I mean, I think we've maybe seen one or two, I can't even recall, but it seems like where some panelists said, hey, it was legitimate. They had these links on their page where that's how they monetize. And I'm sure there are some where a panelist was really, I can't never think of the word. Anyway, sort of, it's not compassionate, but it's like that type of word where they're really okay with PPC links, understand it's legitimate business, especially probably back in the day that, okay, so this person makes money off these links, and it's legitimate, and that's it. But normally, it's usually just held against you, um, more often than not. Okay, when it comes to this last case, so Green Connection was a complaint denied. Should have been an RD&H. Like I said, the guy bought it at auction for $761 on a namejet auction. He owns some other green names, but Green Connection, how open-ended or generic does that sound? And then this complainant didn't even have their trademark registered until 2018. So why this panelist didn't just flat out rule for an RD&H? This last case, real simple. We'll get through it fast. If you have any questions or you want to bring up a topic, you can certainly do that here at the end. This last domain name is a 3-number domain name, 675.com. And I thought, that's interesting, 675. I was assuming that hopefully it was going to be a complaint denied. It really would have been interesting if it was a transfer. But so the panelist in this case, Lars Carno, okay, so he basically ruled complaint denied, but it was the complainant had the name, dropped it, had been using it, since 2021. I don't know when they picked it up. I'll see if I can get some information. But they dropped it. Don't know where the respondent picked it up. But anyway, the complainant, Jing Jiang, that's true. I'm not bullshitting. And you know what? He was represented by himself. It says complainant is, maybe that's a company, Jing Jiang, represented by Jing Jiang. Respondent is Feng Wang. I'm not making jokes here. But interesting that they're both from China, and they love the numbers, so I'm certain the person paid a good price even back when they initially purchased it. They were using it commercially since 2021. They dropped it. This other person picked it up. The panelist basically said for a couple things. One, you didn't even show us that you have a trademark to this thing. These are numbers anyway, so you'd really need to show us your registration for what category. I mean, what is this a trademark for? But the complainant didn't fulfill any, provide any evidence. Just basically said because of our previous registration that we should have this name. It was really just almost a nothing complaint. I guess I didn't get to see it, but David, was there anything to this case? It looked like basically the panelist said, you didn't even show us you have trademark rights or service rights, so I'm not even going to deal with legitimate interests or bad faith by this other person. Did you see anything here that was...
Well, yeah, so it's a common thing. She said that she used it in her business, whatever that business is. It wasn't mentioned in the decision, but she didn't have anything that would associate 675 as a brand to, to the world, not just to her customers. Like she was emailing people. Did she have a website up? She didn't put any evidence in there. So she didn't have a trademark registration, no flyers, no brochures, no business registration with that name. She had nothing to prove that she had trademark rights in the name. And that's the key thing. So without trademark rights, you lose a first tranche of the UDRP rules, and that's it. Like you're gone. Like the case is over. So it's a valuable domain name. 675 is a number, so a lot of people love these number names. They're worth a lot. I can see that for a while it was redirected to zdcs.62.com. So that's another Chinese site. In 2013.
Yeah.
So maybe she was using it for email, but she was redirecting the domain name or something, so it goes someplace else.
I see a
So
lot
she
of...
actually didn't actually use it. Yeah.
I'm looking on name bio at anything with numbers with 675 in it or any domains, and some interesting stuff. I'm gonna the ones that go back to far 8675. Guess how much that sold on Cedo for in 2010?
I don't know what that would admit, like 86 something, 75. I don't know what
Just in
75 would
numbers,
represent, but
9,000 of them. I mean,
it's just random, I guess.
Yeah, just random. But only $700. I bring that up because I was looking far back to see. Well, do see one in 2015. There's a ton of them, but 2675 sold on Cedo for 16,500. That was in 2015. Now I'm trying to. Now I know those were 4 digits when we're talking about a 3 digit here, and I'm going to get to some. But interesting that 675.co is on here a couple times, and it was so I don't see the .com, but maybe I'm missing it. I'll look this up. But anyway, 675.co was sold on GoDaddy in 2017 for $186. So it shows you no one really cares about the .co. Now that was, and then it was sold for $305 a year later on GoDaddy. So the person who sold it might have made $100. Let's see. No, I don't see 675 the .com. But if I look at the highest priced domain with 675 in it for the last minute, 7675 sold in 2024, June 30th. So 2 years ago, sold for 18,500. It was a drop on Snap names. So I don't know. People love numbers, easy to remember. But as we saw, Chinese complainant, Chinese registrant here, the Chinese always paid more for the numbers than these Western countries. Always, I've always noticed it too, and that's why most of them end up there. And everybody's like, four, you don't want four, but yet 4.cn is their biggest company over there. So they'll take a four. I mean, like I said, 4.cn, but you get these fucking Americans, usually Americans, but European. Oh yeah, they won't buy anything with four in it. They just told that, and then of course, does it in most of the domains? Yeah, it does not help to have a four or a zero, frankly, but still, 4.cn helped me sell a lot of names, and that goes to show you that there is, they're not completely opposed to it. As soon as you know, tell somebody a little, oh, they don't want a four, yeah, you'll keep a four out, and that's like even when they don't like the vowels or V's in a 3-letter or 4-letter. Well, they love a 3-letter no matter if there's vowels or V's in it. But they got you believing that if you have a 4 or a 0 or a vowel or a V, we can't pay you. That's a lot less. And the brokers over there tell you, yeah, that's more unattractive. But they still pick them up. They picked up many from me. 3-character with 4 in them and 4-letter with vowels and V's. Okay. Okay. So anybody have a question or anything? Anybody? Anybody have a legal type question, I guess? Any legal topic they want to bring up? Got through things pretty fast today. This Thursday on the DNX show. Got a lot of topics to bring up, some sales. I just don't say I saved some of the topics for Thursday because they're more domain investing stuff. And as I go through domaining.com, I save some of the topics that aren't really legal related. But David, any news? I did notice, I was going to bring it up Thursday, Darcy sold a name, openweight.com, for $25,000. And he felt like he undersold it because I guess it means something in crypto now or something. I mean, open weight, I
No,
thought of
it's
it
an
like
LLM term.
it is.
Weights are like a graph. Think of it in terms of a graph, like a matrix. And those are your weights on a model. So you train it and it learns a function. It generates a function, and that's the weights. So it's a file that's usually under 3 megs, and sometimes they're bigger. Sometimes you can have a billion parameters in them. But weights are LLMs basically, and there's open ones and there's closed ones. So closed ones would be like OpenAI or Anthropic's Claude, Fable, etc. But open ones are like not necessarily Gemma. I think Gemma is open source, but I don't think you can read the weights. I don't think they let you see the weights. You can't download the file and review it. But open weights would be something that's fully open sourced.
Yeah. When you have you outbounded many domain names in the last year? Send emails to people or any way, shape or form. Send outbounding domain names to try to find buyers.
I've sent out maybe a dozen emails in the last year, so it's not a regular practice.
Yeah. I was curious about responses that people get. That sometimes you send something out and you get a threatening response or a mean response saying, especially when if it's a good name and might include someone's mark, even if it's a generic word. Trademark holders feel like, yeah, they have rights to stuff. And wanted to find out if anybody was doing any outbounding and having some friction.
Yeah, there's this guy named Bruce Berger. He does a lot of outbounding. I think he has a whole system set up and he sells dozens of domain names every week doing outbounding. But he has kind of names that lawyers and real estate agents would want to buy.
I'd really like to know when brokers reach out to someone and it stirs up it's not friendly. Basically, they reach out to a potential buyer and then it causes a UDRP. Boy, what, I'm curious what rights the domain owner has. And if a broker, I'm sure many times they try not to mention it, but are they obligated to step in and help defend? They're the ones that caused it. I know it must happen. You never hear brokers saying that too much, that, yeah, we did that. They'll always act like it was on our lander and the guy made a complaint. But anyway, just sensitive. Domain legal issues are sensitive, and try to sell these names, and then you can't even trust a inquiry because the person offers you 5,000, and then like Mike Mann did, you respond with a high price, and then they're like, why would we do that? We were nice enough to offer you 5,000. It's got our mark in it, and you're not even using it. So as a domain investor, it's hard to win. All right, I was trying to last till 1 o'clock because I like to make sure we have.
Yeah, there's some websites that have terms from before you can make an offer. You have to pay an amount, and you have to affirm that you're not you're waiving any trademark rights you have in the name before you make the offer. Otherwise, you can't even speak to the owner of the domain name. I think Nat Cohen does that. But if you ever need to do a cancellation for a trademark, the Canadian fee right now has gone up to $595.06 just to file a request to cancel a trademark that's not been in use. If you think it's generic, you have to go to court. It's a different procedure, and that can cost you between $10,000 and $60,000. So in the US, you really need to hire a TTAB litigator, put together all the evidence in advance, make it clean, and then hire a TTAB litigator who can cancel these trademarks. Even if the trademark is incontestable, it can be canceled. I've done it. So.
Anybody use their own landers in the audience? If you do, raise your hand. I know, it's like David Sustiel was one of the only ones that uses his own landers, going to his ultrapremiumdomains.com. I don't know if he ended up selling his whole website with like 700-800 domains. But when people just gave up on using their own landers, see, King looks like he's clapping or something. Maybe he does. But I think, your own landers really make sense. And what David was mentioning is you can put, and it does hold some weight, where you put, if you're inquiring about this name, you're already agreeing that you have no trademark rights in it, or you're not going to claim any trademark rights with regards to the name. If you're negotiating with us and buying it, and you're not going to hold us responsible. Anyway, other than the negative, if it wasn't for that negative charge that you get from Afternic for not using their landers, well, a lot of people would be using their own landers. So whether you like what Afternic was doing or not, by charging you an extra 10% if you don't use their servers, it works because most of us still get our sales through Afternic, and you want to save the 10%. So if they didn't have that penalty for not using their landers, there would be a lot of folks that would be using your own landers and still letting your names get registered through the Afternic, the registration path, the GoDaddy, registration path in that network. But that would be my main reason for wanting Afternic to get rid of it. But one thing I don't want is them to just get rid of the lower amount, the lower tier, and just say, okay, you don't have to have your servers here. We're just going to charge everybody 25% instead of 15%. So that would be my biggest fear, that they would just go, hey, we are going to charge 25%. You guys can do what you want. Because a lot of people don't want to have their own landers, don't mind using GoDaddy name servers. It does lend some credibility because it does have the GoDaddy logo on there now. And so I look at it as, be careful what you ask for, because they could certainly get rid of the 15% commission, just charge 25. And you know what everybody would do? Nothing. You just take it. That's how it goes down. All right. Thanks for being here. Appreciate everybody who listens live and also listening on the replays. You guys know replays are available here on X. You can listen to a replay here on X, YouTube, or we're streaming right now on YouTube. So you got the live streams on X and YouTube, and then the replays on X, YouTube, and Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Still trying to keep it going. But thanks for being here. Next week we'll have some interesting cases. I'll make sure we got a few that rile up the audience, get some activity here. But anyway, be sure on Thursday to join me and Josh. We just talk about domain investing for a couple hours. It's 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, right here on X. Same thing. But have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. It's only Tuesday. In some places I know it's already Wednesday. But have a great rest of your week. Take care of yourself wherever you're at, and we'll talk with you next time.